This is a story about Aurora, Jesus, and you. First, Aurora. For 44 years, Aurora has been our home, but it's also been our mission. From day one, the vision of eHills has never been to build a church for ourselves. It's been to help build a great city, to be for Aurora. Jesus does that. He restores what's broken. He advances the common good. He fuels generosity, mercy, and justice. He makes homes more stable, workplaces more humane, relationships healthier. Jesus changes lives. Jesus changes culture. Jesus changes everything. And that's where you come in. Because you are a culture maker. How you live, how you love, how you create, how you do your work, that creates culture, and it shapes the fabric of the city. So here's what we see when we look ahead. We see a church bursting with life, so much so that buildings cannot contain it. We see a church that the unchurched love to attend, a church that never stopped searching for lost people, because God never stopped searching for us. We see a church where all people can come as they are and find a place to belong. A church that celebrates and champions diversity. We see a church that builds bridges, not walls. A church raising up a new generation of leaders, spiritually potent, genuinely humble, and ready to change the world. We see a church known not for what it's against, but for what it's for. For real, for Aurora, and for better. A church that invites everyone to experience that following Jesus makes life better. This is what we see. This is what we're building together. And here's where we are in the story. Right now, Aurora is one of the most unchurched cities in America, with 85% of people not connected to a local church. High levels of institutional distrust, but even higher levels of spiritual openness and hunger. You could say the fields are ripe for the harvest. And in just the last 2 years, God has more than doubled our church. In one of the most secular cities in America, a gospel movement is on the rise. Now, we could be content with that. We could stop and say, job well done. Or we could say, it's time to dream again. Psalm 126 says, when the Lord restored the fortunes of Zion, we were like those who dreamed. Our mouths were filled with laughter, our tongues with songs of joy. So now, a new chapter begins. We are launching a 2-year vision to dream again, to be for here, for there, for others, and for the future.
For here, to upgrade the Southlands campus with the infrastructure needed to launch future campuses. For there, to renovate and launch the East Hamden campus with brand new kids spaces, a larger auditorium, and a welcoming lobby for our first new campus. For others, to expand our For Aurora footprint through the East Hamden campus, increasing our capacity exponentially to serve schools, feed people, solve social issues, and be a light in our city. And for the future, to secure land in Aurora Highlands, where 80,000 new homes are coming, and right now, there isn't a single church.
This can't be done by simply building a bigger Southlands campus. It's bigger than one building or one location. This is about saturating a city with Jesus until every neighborhood has been touched and every life has been invited into the story. This is not about what we need, it's about who you already are. Because you are the neighbor, you are the leader, the co-worker, the artist. You are the gospel carrier. So dream with us and say, I'm in. Because this is a story about Aurora, Jesus, and you. And the defining moment is now. It's time to dream again.
Well, there we go. Most of us know what it feels like to dream. I mean, when you're younger, dreaming comes naturally. I mean, you dream about what your life will look like, who you'll become, what job you do, what your family might look like, how God might use you. But somewhere along the way, disappointment teaches us to dream smaller. Somewhere along the way, life has a habit of convincing us that it's not safe to dream at all. And it's not because we stopped caring. It's not necessarily that we just kind of became cynical overnight. No, usually it's because we hoped and we got hurt. Or we believed and it got delayed. We prayed and it didn't happen the way we thought it would. We trusted someone and then they betrayed us. We stepped out and we got disappointed. Anyone? This is why we're doing this series. To resurrect some dreams in this room and in your heart today, and perhaps for our church as well. And let me say this up front. This is not like a hype. This is not like positive thinking wrapped up in a Bible verse. And it's certainly not about pretending that everything is going to be easy or without challenge or without sacrifice. It's about asking as individuals and as a church community, what if God is not finished with the dreams that He's placed in us? What if the dream is not dead? What if it's time to dream again? As Anthony said, we've been preparing for this series for a long time now, and the inspiration really came to us through Psalm 126. You would have heard it in that video we just watched. It says this: when the Lord restored the fortunes of Zion, we were like those who dreamed. It's on the shirt. Our mouths were filled with laughter, our tongues with songs of joy. Now, that's verse 1 and 2, but I want to read on today because what happens in verses 3 and 4 is this is what happens when we have the courage and the conviction to dream again. It goes on, it says, then it would be said among the nations that the Lord has done great things for them. The Lord has done great things for us, and we are filled with joy. You see, when the people of God dream again, I'm not exaggerating, cities and nations are impacted. And people end up praising God. Not us, not E-Hills, God. Because restoration makes dreamers out of disappointed people. Now, as part of this Dream Again series, and this is actually going to be a 6-week series, we're going to be looking at 6 different dreams in the Bible and how God used those dreams to speak through those dreams to awaken hope in people, to restore what had been lost, to invite His people into something much bigger than they could have imagined on their own. And today I want to begin with probably one of the most famous dreamers in all of Scripture, and that is a guy by the name of Joseph. Now, maybe you're familiar with Joseph's story, maybe you're not. We're going to kind of fly through it, kind of give you the big picture. Joseph was one of 12 sons, the youngest in a large family. His father loves him deeply and gives him this special technicolored dream code, which only adds to the resentment that his brothers have towards him. And then Joseph has these dreams that suggest that one day his family will bow down to him. And as he shares those dreams, his brothers hate him even more. Eventually, their jealousy turns to violence, and they strip him of his robe, they throw him into a pit, and they sell him off to slavery. Joseph ends up in Egypt serving in a man's house named Potiphar, but even there, God is with him, and he begins to rise in responsibility. Then he's falsely accused of a crime that he does not commit, and he ends up being thrown again into prison, a prison where he is forgotten for years. Eventually, in that prison, his gift of interpreting dreams brings him before Pharaoh. And through a series of events that only God could have orchestrated, Joseph goes from pit to prison and eventually to the palace, becoming one of the most powerful leaders in all of Egypt, second only to Pharaoh himself. And so this is why, it's kind of crazy if you think about it, because the story, it's got everything that like a Netflix documentary series could ever hope for, right? It's got betrayal and drama and jealousy and a special robe and prison and politics and power and forgiveness. This is probably why Joseph's story has been retold in so many different ways, in plays and movies and musicals. And if you've been, part of church, in Sunday school flannel graphs, right? Remember those? But before Joseph ever got to the palace, before he ever became powerful, before he even understood what God was doing through it all, the story begins in Genesis 37 with 4 simple words. Joseph had a dream. And to be honest, Joseph did not handle that dream very well. Look at what it says in the text. It says, when his brothers saw that their father loved him more than any of them, they hated him and could not speak a kind word to him. And then verse 5, Joseph had a dream. And when he told it to his brothers, they hated him all the more. Notice the progression. They already hated him. Then he tells them the dream, and somehow things get even worse. He says, listen, to this dream I had, we were binding sheaves of grain out in the field when suddenly my sheaf rose and stood upright while your sheaves gathered around mine and bowed down to it. His brothers are not happy. They say, well, do you intend to reign over us? Will you, Joseph, the younger brother, rule us? And they hated him all the more because of his dream and what he had said. And then, I always love this part, as if that wasn't enough, verse 9, and then he had another dream, and he told it to his brothers. And I'm like, Joseph, bro, listen. Just a heads up. I know you're excited. I know you feel like God's showing you something, but maybe, just maybe, you want to keep this dream on the lowdown. You know what I mean? And I know you guys say down low, and you're wrong, okay? But seriously, Joseph, like, read the room, my guy. You know what I mean? Like, they already hate you. They cannot speak a kind word about you. The first dream didn't go well, so I wouldn't maybe lead with, hey, guys, I had another dream. Looks like you're bowing down to me again. But that's exactly what Joseph does. Why? Because he's 17. And some of you have teenagers and 17-year-olds, and you know exactly what I'm talking about, because at that age, you have just enough confidence to be dangerous, but not quite enough frontal lobe to be helpful, okay? But Joseph says, listen, I had another dream, and this time the sun and the moon and 11 stars were bowing down to me. Anyway, don't get sidetracked by Joseph's foolishness, because here's what I want you to see. Joseph did have a dream, and I believe the dream was real. I believe God really was showing Joseph something, speaking and giving Joseph a glimpse of the future. But Joseph's understanding of the dream was still very immature. He thought the dream was about his future position. He thought the dream was about his brothers bowing down to him, about him being elevated, like one day I'm going to be great. But God knew that the dream was about something so much bigger. See, God knew that the dream wasn't just about Joseph's position. It was actually about Joseph's preparation. It was about Joseph being shaped and humbled and formed and eventually positioned for impact far beyond his own life and far beyond anything he could imagine. So that's the first lesson. That's the first thing that Joseph's dream teaches us. That a dream from God may be given to you, but it was never meant to end with you. Do you get it? God may place something in your heart. God may awaken something in your imagination. God may give you a glimpse of what could be a holy discontent, a burden, a calling, a picture of the future. But if the dream is from God, listen, it will never be about you or me becoming more impressive. It will never be about our comfort or our success or our platform, our security, our name, or our future. Those things may come with it. But a God-given dream always moves through us for the sake of others. Are you still with me? Because here's where the dream gets real. Because the moment, listen to this, the moment Joseph receives the dream, his life does not start moving up and to the right. That's how most of us expect things to happen. In fact, almost immediately, the opposite happens. Instead of being lifted up, he's been thrown down. Instead of being honored, he's been rejected. Instead of stepping into his destiny, he's dropped into a pit. And some of you find yourself there. Genesis 37 says that when Joseph's brothers saw him coming, the first thing they did was strip him of his robe. And that's an important detail, because you have to understand that that technicolored robe was not just clothing. The robe represented Joseph's identity. It represented favor. It represented the fact that Joseph was a beloved son of his father. And so, in other words, before the brothers threw him into a pit, they tried to strip him of who he was. And then they sold him for 20 shekels of silver, which in today's money is like chump change. In other words, they treated him as if he was worth nothing. And I say all of that because as I was preparing this message, I wondered if there's anyone here today who knows what that feels like. Maybe someone tried to strip you of your identity. Maybe someone tried to tell you who you are and who you aren't and what you could and can't do. I wonder if there's anyone here who has been made to feel worthless, less than, who's been lied about or lied to. Maybe people have said things to you or about you behind your back that simply weren't true. Because guys, our pits all may look very different, but my guess is most of us know what it feels like to be in a pit. Maybe it's a pit of betrayal. Maybe it's the pit of divorce or a relational breakdown. Maybe it's the pit of unanswered prayer, the pit of grief or disappointment or hurt, or maybe financial pressure. Maybe it's the pit of watching your kids struggle and feeling helpless, or giving your best and still feeling overlooked. What about the pit of wondering if your best days are behind you? Or the pit of coming to church on Sunday, smiling on the outside, while inside you're barely holding on. And let's be honest, the pit is often where people stop dreaming. Not because we believe that, God is not all-powerful, not because we don't love Jesus, but because we're just not sure that we can handle hoping again and being hurt again. Joseph had a dream, but then life threw him into a pit. But here's what I want to tell someone here today. And maybe this is just for one person. The pit did not cancel God's dream. The presence of a pit in your life does not mean the absence of our Heavenly Father. Because in the hands of our God, a pit is not just a place where dreams get buried. Sometimes, oftentimes, it is the place where dreams go deeper. And this is the remarkable thing about Joseph's story. He goes from pit to slavery, from slavery to false accusation, from false accusation to prison for years, forgotten. But through it all, say through it all, Joseph keeps being faithful in places he would never have chosen. He serves in Potiphar's house. He resists the temptation. He uses his gifts in prison. Get this, to interpret the dreams of others while his own dreams seem forgotten. And this is the real miracle of Joseph's story. Not just that God redeemed him in the end, but that he stayed faithful when he had no evidence that the ending would be redeemed. It's what I would say is the messy middle of Joseph's story. And the messy middle matters because guess what? Most of us live there, right? I mean, for most of us, we are not in Genesis 37 with a fresh dream and everything just feeling exciting. Most of us are not standing at Genesis 50 looking back with perfect clarity going, oh, now I see what God was doing. Most of us are somewhere in between trying to trust God in the middle. And how many of you know the middle is a hard place to live? We love the beginning of dreams. We love the fulfillment of dreams. But unfortunately, most of the story, most of the formation happens in the middle. That's how life works, I'm afraid. But here's what you realize when you kind of read Joseph's story in its entirety. God did not waste the middle. He was working in it. And could it be, guys, could it be that the same is true for you too? Could it be that where you see a pit, God sees purpose? Could it be that where you see a prison, God sees a plan? Could it be that in your life, what the enemy meant for evil, what people meant for evil, God can use for good? I mean, that's literally what happens in this story. If you read on, and I'm fast forwarding, but Joseph gets out of prison, he interprets Pharaoh's dream, and he ends up being made the prime minister of Egypt. And I know you guys in America don't have prime ministers, but you get it, right? He's a powerful guy. And then years later, when this huge famine hits the land, which Joseph had actually predicted, Joseph's brothers come down to Egypt looking for food. And just imagine the scene. They're hungry, they're desperate, they need mercy. And when they get there, guess who they find ruling over the whole land? Their little brother Joseph. The same brother that they rejected, the same brother that they stripped, the same brother that they threw into a pit and sold for chump change. And of course, Joseph has every reason, you could say, every right to get revenge. I mean, that's what I would have done, right? And he so easily could have, because now he's got the power, now he's got the position. But instead of destroying them, he saves them. And spoiler alert, this is actually a picture of what Jesus does for each and every single one of us. Instead of paying them back, he provides for them. Instead of using his power to punish them, he uses his power to preserve them. And honestly, I think this might be one of the most stunning acts of forgiveness in all of Scripture. I encourage you to read the story. Joseph looks at his brothers with literal tears in his eyes. And he says this, he says, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives." Say, the saving of many lives. Those 5 words, the saving of many lives. Yes, those 5 words are everything. This is the whole story. Because, man, I've heard lots of sermons on Joseph, and maybe you have too. But if you preach the story or read the story just as, Joseph had a dream and he stayed faithful and he got promoted, well, then it's just a self-help book. And we miss the point. Because please hear me, the dream was never about Joseph getting a platform. The dream was always about God preserving his people. And now the dreams make sense. It was never about his brothers bowing. It was about bread in a famine. It was about a family being preserved, a future nation. It was about the redemptive purposes of God in this world. You intended to harm, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. Guys, this is why as a church, we are stepping into a season called Dream Again. Not because we're chasing some kind of impressive platform, not because we need campuses for the sake of campuses, or we're just interested in momentum for momentum's sake. We are dreaming again because there are many lives to be reached. There are families in Aurora who need hope. There are students who need belonging. There are skeptics who need a safe place to ask honest questions about life and faith and God and meaning. Like Alpha. There are people carrying shame who need to discover the grace of Jesus. Children who need to grow up knowing Jesus. Lonely people who need community. Broken people who need to know that following Jesus actually makes life better. And guys, I want us to understand this. When we talk about, we're not talking about something that's abstract. When we say the saving of many lives, we're not talking about numbers on a screen or statistics or a spreadsheet. We're not talking about some vague group of people out there. We're talking about real people with real stories, real lives, real struggles. We're talking about people like Kim. Kim's story is such a beautiful picture of what we're talking about because she did not come from a religious background. She was walking through a dark and difficult season in her own life. You could say it was a pit. But God, in his kindness, used this church, used E-Hills to become a place where she could encounter, her and her family could encounter hope and community and healing, but most importantly, where they could encounter Jesus. We managed to sit down with Kim and hear some of her story. Take a look.
Just blown away by his goodness. I'm hopeful and I'm excited, and I don't think I realized quite how I wasn't living anymore. This building, this place, this church establishment, like this has breathed life into me. All of our lives could be changed this way if we just let him. Hey. Hello, my name is Kim Swale, and I am a mom. I have 2 kids. So I have a son who is 10. His name is Jude. I have a daughter, Penny. She is 7, and so those are kind of the center points of my world. I live in Aurora. I live super close to E-Hills, and 3 years ago, roughly, I don't know, my entire world changed. I started coming here to E-Hills. I started attending really for my kids. I grew up with atheist parents. I don't think I had like a whole lot of faith background that I was leaning back on. I don't think I had a whole lot of belief system that I had built up other than like, sure, there might be a God. And Jesus got a hold of me. The rest is history, as it were. Life changed. I don't think I realized what God being for me or for my family or for us as a humanity meant or looked like. But it's so weird because I can look backwards into my past and so clearly see him at work. He has always been there, whether or not I was talking to him. And this idea that he pursued me becomes very real. To me, learning that God loved me that completely, or getting out of my own way, really more than anything else, made all the difference. And it's as simple as just taking a first step of like, what if I prayed today? What if I went to church on a Sunday and just listened? What if I just sat there at a small group? What if I attend one alpha session? The steps don't have to be these like massive sweeping gestures. The point is just that I just say yes. There's a poem on our website, and I know Tom has read it. He talks about the city on the hill, like about what this building is. Like, I think of a place that does this and does that. And I'm like, yes, that's this place. That's this place for me. But it was more than that. It's like sitting in a Sunday service and worshiping with a massive room of people and feeling a shared love and peace, or hearing a message and thinking, God, did you write that for me? Like, that feels so directly into my soul. And then being able to look around that same room of people and realize that it's not just to me, that all of the time God speaks through a place and through a people in a way that is really personal and specific. Isaiah 9:2, the Israelites were in exile, they were walking in darkness, and to me speaks to the heart of a new Christian, to go from a life that is searching. We're searching for like, what is the direction of this existence? How do I become a better parent? How do I like better lead at work? Or like, how am I a better friend or a better daughter or a better sister? Or all of the things that I felt like I wasn't juggling well. I was also at the time in a really dark relationship. And so for me, when Jesus came into our lives, it's the light didn't flip on like a switch or like leak in under the door. Like, it like flooded me from the inside, and it flooded my children. And it just seeing the way that parenting or any of those relationships could be different from coming from a place of that light and that love and that overwhelming inner peace and joy was like, what? Where have I been? That's the light of Jesus. Like, you have to just open a door and let it come in. Or maybe not even opening the door. Maybe it was more that he had the door open for me and had for a really long time. And I just said, what if I like walked through it, or just even walked over to it? What if I just looked at it? That simple, just entertaining the like, what if? It felt like I was walking in darkness. I had no idea. And all of a sudden this light from inside and this light from around and this light from everywhere. And our whole family is never going to be the same again in all of the best ways.
Guys, this is why we dream again, not for buildings or programs for our namesake, it's for stories like Kim's and hundreds of others. And by the way, Kim went from having no faith background, she's now studying at seminary. Can you believe it? Now, let me just kind of pause there for a bit, and we're going to come back to Joseph. But if you're here today and you've never actually heard about Dream Again or this Dream Again campaign, or why are these people wearing these green shirts, what is this all about? For a few minutes, I just want to give you kind of like a very practical flyover of what the Dream Again campaign is. And if today happens to be your very first time in church, I met someone between the services like, this is my first time in church. I was like, yay. You chose an interesting Sunday to come because we're going to, but actually I am excited because I'm really glad that you're here, because we want to share what we feel God is calling us to as a church. And there's no expectation to you at all. We just want to let you know what is happening in the life of our church and where we believe God is calling us to dream again. Is that okay? And we say this all the time. We want to be as upfront as we can be, as clear and as transparent as we can be. We want you to understand not just the heart behind Dream Again, but also some of the practical picture of what that actually looks like and what it's going to take for us to fulfill this dream. Okay, so here's kind of like the simplest version, kind of the flyover of what Dream Again is. Dream Again is a 2-year, one-fund initiative with a total goal of $18 million. Ooh. I put one fund really big and then 18 million small so you don't get too overwhelmed. I'm converting that into South African rands. Let me tell you, that's a lot. Now, of that, let me just break it down. Of that 18 million, 10 million is what we expect to receive through the normal generosity ministry operations over the next 2 years at eHills. In other words, if nothing changes from today, we should still hit that 10 million goal. And what that does, that funds the everyday ministry of our church. Weekend services, Sundays, kids, students, groups, pastoral care, Alpha, outreach, missions, all that stuff, operations, all the ministry that is already changing lives. And so when we say one fund, what we mean is that over the next 2 years, we're not really thinking about regular giving and Dream Again giving separately. We're asking every household that calls eHills home to prayerfully consider one total generosity towards the entire mission of eHills. One fund, one commitment, one united vision. Make sense? Then, beyond our expected ministry, we're trusting God for an additional 8 million that would allow us to step into what we're calling the 4 pillars of Dream Again. 4 significant opportunities that we see ahead of us. And you would have heard some of that in the opening video, but I'm going to unpack them a little more. The first is for here. Say for here. That is 1 million to strengthen our Southlands campus, which is the campus you're in today, our home base, and really the hub that supports our future as what we believe, a multi-campus church, one church in many locations. This includes ministry spaces here and technology that help this campus remain strong while supporting future growth and expansion. And as many of you know, some of that work has already begun. We've recently painted our auditorium. I hope you've noticed. We replaced our 18-year-old carpet for the first time since we've been in this building, and that, let me tell you, that carpet had a lot of Silent Night wax on it, okay? We've got this new LED wall behind us, so we can use what was here, the old LED wall, to go to the new campus, which saves us quite a bit. And we actually haven't announced this yet, but you're hearing it today for the first time. Starting at the end of October, we are planning on launching a 4th service on Thursday nights to relieve some of the capacity here on Sunday. So Thursday nights, and get this, we're calling it Sundays on Thursdays. Brilliant marketing right there. Okay, same message, same preacher, same worship, same kids experience. We're even going to try to figure out some cheap dinner options so you can grab some dinner with the family on your way before church. And we think that this could be huge for families who travel on weekends, ski families, sports families, maybe anyone who just has a difficult time getting here on a Sunday. Maybe you work on a Sunday. And so you'll hear more about that over the next couple of weeks as we kind of figure out get the word out. But all that to say, there is already a lot happening for here. We're underway, but there's still more to do. You with me? Second pillar, for there. Say for there. This is 2.5 million to renovate and launch our East Hamden campus. In further north in Aurora, many people already drive past that area to attend eHills. And a campus in 80013 brings the church closer to where people already live that call eHills home. But it also makes it easier for those people to invite their friends, their neighbors, and their family to attend church. That campus was gifted to us in a miraculous way. I'll tell you more about that another time. But these funds will help prepare that building for a healthy campus launch. Yes? Thank you. Third pillar, for others. Say for others. This is another 2.5 million to expand the impact of our For Aurora ministry in the city and beyond. And honestly, this one gets me super, super excited because this is, if you're new to our church as well, you need to know that this is a hallmark of our church. We want to be a church known for what we're for, not what we're against, and we are for Aurora, where God has placed us. And I believe that this is going to take our For Aurora ministry, marketplace, and all the other stuff we do to an entirely new level in ways we cannot yet imagine. And here's the thing about For Aurora. It's not only about meeting immediate needs. We do that. We serve thousands of meals and all that stuff. But it's also to help people move towards long-term stability and dignity and freedom. And so this includes things like building a commercial kitchen at the new site, expanded storage capacity, so we have trucks that can roll in and get the stuff out, improved care spaces, and a ministry base, honestly, just closer to a lot of the communities and the schools that we are already serving. And guys, I'm telling you, this will be a legacy play that will outlast every single one of us in this room. Number 4, for the future. Say for the future, last time. This is about $2 million to prepare for where Aurora is growing next. We're exploring the purchasing of land near communities like Aurora Highlands, even Murphy Creek, where tens of thousands of homes are being built right now. And like I said in the video, there's not a single church. And our hope is to secure land for a future campus before that opportunity becomes much more difficult. So those are the 4 pillars: for here, for there, for others, and for the future. 1 fund, 4 pillars, 1 united vision. Good? Now, I know I moved through that a lot, and maybe you're hearing this for the first time, and I moved through it quickly on purpose because you're going to hear more about this in the next couple of weeks. We're going to have a Dream Again book available to you, to every family. You can take one home as a gift. We'd love to give you, and that'll be available next week. And that book will explain in more detail some of the stuff. It walks through the visions and the projects, the numbers, the timeline, and it's got a really helpful FAQ section at the back to answer some of maybe the questions that you even have right now as you're just kind of processing this for the first time. For now, if you want to find out more, can I encourage you to go to ehills.org/dreamagain. We're going to keep that website updated with all the latest information and videos and all that stuff, and you can just scan that QR code. No one's scanning it. Scan it. Good, okay. But for today, what I really want you to know is, like I said, we want to do this with as much clarity and transparency as we can. We don't want this to feel mysterious or manipulative. We certainly don't want it to feel like pressure. We want this to be done prayerfully. We want this to be done honestly. And we want this to be something that we as a united church family walk through together. And so today, we're not asking you for any kind of commitment. What we're simply asking you is to make a commitment to the journey, to make a commitment to making a commitment. Does that make sense? To come back, to be part of this series for the next couple of weeks. Don't miss it. To pray, to listen, to ask questions, to bring your doubts, to bring your hopes and your dreams, and to bring your family into the conversation. Because listen, this is important. Dream Again is not only about what God wants to do through our church, it is also about what God might want to awaken in you, in your life, in your family, in your finances, in your faith, in your imagination, in the places where perhaps disappointment has taught you to dream smaller. Because Joseph's story, it's not just about what God did through Joseph, it's also about what God did in Joseph. Because before God ever used Joseph for the saving of many lives, God met Joseph in the places where his own life felt broken. In the pit, in the prison, in the waiting, in the betrayal, in the places where the dream looked dead. And maybe that's where it gets a little personal for you today, because it is one thing to say, God, give us a dream for our church. And I believe He has. I believe God is at work even now. But it is another thing to say, God, would you awaken a dream in me again? So let me wrap up with this question. Where have you stopped dreaming? Where have you quietly made peace with disappointment? Where have you assumed that your pit is the end of the story? Where have you confused delay with abandonment? Where has pain convinced you that God is finished with you? Where have you lowered your expectations? Not because God got smaller, but because life got harder. And as you think about that and pray about that and wrestle with that, maybe the invitation for you today is not to pretend that the pit didn't hurt, not to pretend that the betrayal was okay, not to minimize the suffering, because listen, dreaming again does not mean calling evil good. It means believing that our God is so powerful, so sovereign, so redemptive, that even what was meant for harm does not get the final word. You intended to harm, says Joseph, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. And maybe like Joseph, the way we keep the dream alive in the middle is by helping others with theirs. Because remember, Joseph interpreted the dreams of other people while his own dream was still in process. He served where he was, not where he wished he was. He stayed faithful in the prison before he ever saw the palace. And guys, I'm telling you, some of you right now, you're waiting. You're waiting for your dream to come alive again. But God is inviting you in this season to help somebody else dream again first. To serve, to give, to encourage, to show up, to sacrifice, to be part of someone else's rescue mission. Someone else like Kim and many, many others who've been impacted by Jesus through the ministry of eHills. This is what Joseph did. But I don't want to end today with Joseph. Because at the end of the day, please hear me, Joseph is not the hero of the Bible. Jesus is. Amen? And this is important because without that, Joseph's story can become purely inspirational. But don't miss the connection. Joseph was betrayed by his brothers. Jesus was rejected by his own. Joseph was stripped of his robe. Jesus was stripped before the cross. Joseph was falsely accused. Jesus was falsely accused. Joseph suffered unjustly. Jesus suffered unjustly. Joseph's suffering led to the saving of many lives, but Jesus' suffering led to the salvation of the entire world. And so eHills, don't miss this. The ultimate proof that God can bring beauty out of broken places is actually not Joseph in Egypt. It's Jesus on the cross. Because at the cross, it looked like the dream was dead. Hope was buried. The disciples were scattered. A stone got rolled in front of a tomb. But how many of you know what looked like the end was actually just the beginning? What looked like defeat was actually redemption. What looked like death was actually resurrection. And so that is why, as followers of Jesus, we can dream again. Not because life always goes according to plan, not because the pit doesn't hurt or the prison is easy, but because Jesus is alive. And I'm telling you guys, if the cross does not cancel the dream of the kingdom of God, then your pit does not get to cancel your dream. And so maybe the invitation is simple. For the person far from God today, or maybe this is your first time, I just want to say, hey, you're just here to receive. Receive the hope that is Jesus. That's all we're asking. For the discouraged believer, bring him your buried dream. And for the church, let's step into this season, eHills, with faith and generosity and on mission. And for every single one of us, let's dream again, because God is not yet done with us. Joseph thought the dream was about a platform, but in the end, it was about God preserving his people. It was never just about Joseph. It was always about something much bigger than him. And that is my prayer for Dream Again. That one day we'll look back on this season and we'll not say, well, look at what I gave, or look at what we built. Rather, we will say, look at what Jesus did. Look at what God did. And we will say like those people in the Psalms, when the Lord restored the fortunes of Zion, we were like those who dreamed, and our mouths will be filled with laughter and our tongues with songs of joy. And then it will be said among the nations, among Aurora and Denver and Colorado, that the Lord has done great things for them. The Lord has done great things for us, and we are filled with joy. So eHills, bring him the dream, bring him the disappointment, bring him the future and the broken pieces. Bring it all, because God is not yet done. It is time to dream again. Let's stand and let's sing together and let's declare that in this place today.